So let's apply some of the concepts regarding elections in American politics. The concepts that we are most interested in are the ones presented by sides, which is the importance of rules, reality, strategies, and decisions. And we're going to do this by looking at the 2016 presidential election. Yes, I know it's already happened, but we're going to see if we can predict what will happen or what the parties would do to make their predictions come true. You will recognize that there are many rules that affect the presidential election, how money can be raised and spent, when the elections will be held, what are the hours for the polling places, what does it take to register votes, and so forth. But a rule that's of key importance is the rule regarding the Electoral College. And the rule is that you don't win the presidency by winning the popular vote, you win it by winning the Electoral College vote. So you have to get a majority of the Electoral College. So you have to receive 270 votes from the Electoral College or more. And that rule dominates what all the candidates do. You have to plan your campaigns to win those 270 votes. Okay? Now, each of the Trump campaign and the Clinton campaign started also thinking about the reality of what happened in the previous election. So Hillary Clinton as a candidate could say, well, President Barack Obama won 332 electoral votes, 51.5% of the popular vote. But he won these states. All the states that have blue markings are the states that Obama won in 2012. The darker the blue, the greater the majority in the state. But again, the size of the majority doesn't matter. It just matters if you receive a majority. If you win the majority in any particular state, you receive the electoral votes from that state, with a couple of modest exceptions. So here are the states that Mitt Romney won in 2012. Again, the Trump campaign faced the reality of these are the states that the Republicans won, all those colored in pink. The darker the red, the greater the majority. So you can already imagine that in terms of their strategies, Trump is not going to campaign much in Utah or Wyoming because the Republicans are likely to win that state. Hillary Clinton doesn't need to campaign in Washington, D.C. She's going to win that state no matter what. Oh, by the way, this is a conceptual map of the United States. So each state is a square: Washington, Oregon, Nevada, California, and so forth, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota. And it's just done as squares so we can actually see more easily how the Electoral College votes are going to turn out. So you have to win the Electoral College. The reality is, here's who won the different states in the previous election. So now we have to think about what the candidates will do what strategies will they choose, what will be their strategic choices to win the Electoral College in 2016. Here's one way they may look at their strategies. We can divide the population into 5 categories. These categories are demographic categories, so non-college educated whites, college educated whites, African American voters, Hispanic Latino voters, Asian, and others. So 5 different demographic groups. And each box has these characteristics. The vertical dimension shows what the turnout rate in that group was. What percentage of that group turned out in the previous presidential election? So in 2012, 57% of non-college educated voters turned out. The horizontal dimension shows what percent of that category went for Democrats or Republicans. And of course, you can go up to 100% for the Democrats, 100% for the Republicans. So in 2012, 60% of non-college educated whites voted for the Republican candidate, Mitt Romney. 54% of college educated whites voted for the Republicans with a turnout rate of 78%. College-educated voters turn out at very high rates. African American voters were overwhelmingly Democratic at a turnout rate that was equivalent to the white turnout rate, and so forth. I'm not going to talk about these categories just for the saving time. They're smaller numerically, although the Hispanic Latino category is certainly one to watch in the future, as well as Asian American. Asian Americans are one of the fastest growing categories, but much of the population is in these categories. Okay, so both Clinton and Trump had to think, what can we do to increase our vote share, or the number of votes in these categories? And for the Republicans, you can increase your votes either by raising the percent who turned out, and I'm going to just raise this, if I can do this, raise this up here. I'm increasing the turnout rate. Or I can have more in that category vote for me. So I can try to get not 60% of the vote, but let's see if I can try to get 65% or 70% of the vote. Well, look, here's the strategy. if I can increase the turnout rate of non-college educated whites even a little bit, you can see I have this huge swing of states moving in the Electoral College away from Clinton and towards Trump. So fairly small changes in this vote category can have a big impact on the election. So the strategy for both parties are, can I increase the percentage voting for me? And can I raise the turnout rate if they're voting for me? So you can raise the turnout rate, raise or lower it, or raise or lower the percent voting for you. So let's think of, again, from the Clinton perspective. If Clinton wants to do better, she can try to lower the turnout rate of college-educated whites, non-college educated whites, or get them to vote more favorably for you. Those moves will turn a couple more states in the Democratic direction, enhancing her electoral majority. Let me go reset here. So let's think of that in terms of Latino voters just for a second. 71% of the Latinos voted for Obama in 2012. Turnout rate was fairly low at 47%. Let's say, what if Trump is able to persuade more Latino voters to vote for him and to increase the turnout rate? Well, you have to do it a lot. You have to get a lot more Latinos to vote for you and increase the turnout rate a lot in order for it to have an effect that's going to allow you to win the election. Look at what I have to do here. I have to get a lot more Latinos to vote for Trump and have them vote at a much higher rate for him to flip the election. So you can understand why focusing on Latinos was not a very important part of the Trump strategy. It just is not going to get you very much in terms of the Electoral College. So we can sort of think of the Trump strategy was this: to win, increase the turnout rate, non-college educated whites, get them to vote for me at higher rates. You do that just a little bit, and you go from an apparent Clinton landslide to an apparent Trump landslide. The strategy is based on winning electoral votes, following that rule, or playing with that rule, and realizing that the reality is that certain groups are more or less likely to vote for you. Your strategies are going to be then mobilize your supporters and get them to vote at higher rates for you. Finally, the outcome of the election is affected, in fact, by the choices that the voters faced. If Bernie Sanders had been running against Trump, or if Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz had been running against Clinton, we might have had a totally different outcome in the votes in the Electoral College. The voters ultimately vote on those who are on the ballot, not those they wish were on the ballot. Anyway, that's a few words about the importance of rules, reality, strategies, and choices in American political campaigns. I hope you enjoyed that overview.